James and Ryan here from the Sweet Science of Fighting Jiu-Jitsu Instructional Channel. Again, more defensive concepts. Again, make sure you grab the book. It is down in the description. The first link is there. It's Ryan's book. And we're going to go through frames and wedges now as a continuation on for the defensive concepts for Jiu-Jitsu.
We're going to talk a little bit about frames and wedges. Sometimes there's a little bit of confusion of what is what, right? And there can be some little gray area there, kind of a frame and a wedge being used at the same time. But I can give you some clear examples of what we use them for. I will say this, as far as for guard retention and as preventative from somebody completely getting around, you must develop good frames. And it's very important to where you place your frames and how you frame. Your wedges you're going to look at, wedges are typically going to be used more so when you're already in kind of a tight position. You need to wedge something in between you and your partner to start to generate space. I'm going to use this as a mount, an idea for mount that everybody kind of understands and knows, to give an example of what a wedging type of thing is. And then I'm also going to give a good example of framing from somebody passing to why it's such a useful tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to get, actually, can you go on this side? I'll go on this side because I have the thing on this side. So we're here. We're going to deal with frame first. So James is starting to pass to the side. Let's say I get like this and I'm like, oh no, and he's passing, right? It could be pressure passing or whatever. First things first, here's a general rule in jiu-jitsu as I teach all my students. You should never, ever, ever allow a crossface, ever. As soon as that crossface comes in, both your arms connect to the bicep here, to the crook of the bicep, to stop the crossface. You don't even need your legs anymore. As long as I have this, and let's say he completely passes, right? If I just commit both my arms to this position, I'm completely flat, and this is a terrible position necessarily for me. But what have I done here is that I've created space between the two of us, right? And from this space, I can start to possibly generate things that gets back to active. If I never address that, the space is closed off, and now I have to produce wedges and start to produce an escape. So as a general rule, if you feel like your guard is beginning to get passed in this particular way, and you start to go, just address the crossface, right? From this point, you should immediately be thinking getting up. This goes to never being flat concept, which is when I would go to pike. I'd go here. And this is one of the most common things you'll see, especially even for advanced people, for resetting positions, okay? Because we stop the position from being closed off by a good frame, and then we generate space between the two by getting on pike position and getting a frame between the two of us, and then we refill the void by reactivating to our guard. So very important where you place the frame. If I'm here and he starts to pass, and I place my frame here, this is no good. He's just going to start to pressure in, and he's still going to hold my neck and grab my neck, and then this is like a kind of a losing battle. He may win it, may not. Who's big, who's strong, whatever. This is generally a bad idea. I always say C-clamp at a minimum to the crook of the arm. The second thing that's very subtle that is being done here is that you'll notice that because I'm turning my thumb down, I'm going to rotate my elbow up to the ceiling. And what this does is, it doesn't matter how much he pressures in, the frame is actually doing all the work, right? He just kind of pushes into my shoulder a little bit, but even if I let the shoulder go all the way back, it's just the frame that's doing the job, right? I'm not trying to hold him away from me. This is very different. I'm not doing like a bench press here. I'm just framing and rotating my elbow. If I did not rotate my elbow, my elbow was rotated down, he presses in, now I'm using my strength to try to push him away. So how you frame is very important. Where you frame and how you frame. Where do I frame? Typically here, boom. And how do I frame? I rotate my elbow up to the ceiling and rotate my shoulder, and now this is a good frame. Okay, so and you can do this with both arms. Now, why am I using the top arm more than the bottom arm? The reason why I use the top arm more than the bottom arm, because the top arm and the top leg are always your greatest resetting tools. So in other words, if I do this, a lot of guys say, well, I'm going to swing my arm around. You swing, but see, I can follow him 360, right? And then we can start to go this direction. I can follow him all the way around my body. If I'm just doing this stuff and I do this, he swings around, I cannot follow him. My hand collapses because everything's on my thumb. And I can only go this far, right? So this can go all the way around. This goes that far. So just consider that the top arm is going to be technically the arm you want to use as the dominant frame, right? The bottom arm can be used as a frame. It's not wrong. I can do both. Boom, boom. And this is great. I have two. And we can start to produce attacks, kimuras, and all these things. Right? This is going to start to get counterattacks. But if I'm trying to recover guard, he's already passed. I'm like, oh no. I'm going to frame out here and just deny the crossface. Even my legs are completely straight. Right? I'm just denying the crossface. He starts to close in. And I can start to steer him around here. And then I switch. Because why do I switch this way? Now my top arm is this arm. right? He sits back, now my top arm is this arm, and I switch back to the top arm. But I'm keeping these frames between the two of us. And what I do with that space is based on my skill level, right? I will say this, if you can combine the frame with a pike position or your butt to the ceiling and just ingrain that in your brain when somebody begins to pass, your guard retention will substantially improve, okay? So at the end of the day, it does end up being a lot about timing and all that too, but it will improve because you're managing distance much better. The other thing you can consider is head framing. This is a great idea. This is really good for wrestlers. Got somebody that's really just like has my legs pinned and he's just like grinding through. You're like, oh man. Notice that I'm typically not. I'm usually always trying to get up. Okay, I'm always trying to get up to an elbow or to a hand. The general rule, you always want to get up. Just like it's a pike position, just doing the inverse. I'm just getting up this from here. Okay, so I'm much more active and I'm producing, again, space between me and the floor to where I can start to move around. We have two main framing positions here. The first one is my elbow on the shoulder here where I can start to frame him out and just keep him away. Again, it's just a frame. The second one is my hand pressing his head to the ground and framing my elbow out. The person cannot pass without going into a wide turn, which gives me way too much space. Even if I'm here, I can do this. I can frame his head down. He can walk around the body, and that's fine. But look what he has to do. If I just lay here, watch what he has to do to get to that space. Do you see all that movement he has to do? Look at all this space right here. I mean, this is all day. I'm like, boom, I'm up, and then I'm out. I go back to a pike position, and I reset my guard. There's no reason why I can't do that. So if he goes to the backside, I go to a pike, and then I fall back in front of him. If he goes that way, I go to smash his head to the ground. I may just sit up and go to my knees, right? Or reset my position into a guard position. So frames, you should ingrain this in your brain for guard retention. Just consider that, okay? That's what they're really good for, and really hyper-focus on them. I'm a big fan of having really good frames and really understanding how to use them. And this is just a few ways, but as a general rule, this is what you probably use it for the most. Wedging. Also, so a quick idea for wedging was side control. Can you go back on this side? Sorry. Just so they can see. Here. Sorry, right here. Yeah. So when I'm here, a good way to think of wedging is just like this, right? Remember when I was saying, like, wedging is typically when you've lost position. I'm like this, right? Just never hug, obviously. Never want to hug anybody. I'm trying to generate space. James on top is trying to reduce space by vacuuming out all the space he possibly can and making it miserable for me. And me from the bottom, I'm trying to generate space so that I can actually have space to work with, to move, right? So wedging would be something like this. I use my hips, I bridge, I wedge my elbow in, now I have a wedge on the hip. I bridge again, and I swim in, now I have a wedge on the neck. And then from here, I can start to create movement and overcommitment, which we'll also talk about as well, overcommitting the person so that I can actually generate space between James and I'm saying space a lot, but that's really what it is. I'm trying to just create some distance between the two of us so that I can have movement to do things, okay? Especially from the bottom perspective. I need that movement. I need my legs involved.
We can wedge from mount, right? Bottom position, that's
yes,
against the hips.
100%. So if I'm here like this, and it goes to mount position, you can see that if I'm here, we all know to a certain degree, and beginners may not know this, but I don't want to get my elbows out like this, right? This is a terrible idea when he gets to high mount. So that means my hands should always be staying on the hips. So my arm is wedged between the two of us, right? Because when he really starts to put pressure in, I'm keeping my arms wedged right here. And I'm keeping them strong and keeping my elbows tight. And then from here, I can start to begin to work and try to work positions to produce an escape. So that is a wedge for the arm. We could go to panda stuff, or we could go for double inside position and all these things. But for the most part, those are kind of wedges where I'm trying to squeeze my arm into something to start to create some space. Then I start to use things to actually generate more space, and then I can create frames or go into attack and get back to offensive. Just always remember, guard is an offensive position. It is not a defensive position. We beginners, again, this is a principle for beginners. It is not a position to be like, ugh, which is what a lot of people take it because it's our natural instinct. If we're like this and somebody's coming towards us, we usually go like this, right? We try to block. It's actually an engaging position where we're going forward and attacking. And that takes time to develop the guards and the technique and all the things you need to know to go forward. But just know that in your mind, that's what you're trying to achieve. It's not like, I see this a lot, this kind of stuff, with your hands like this is terrible. You need to have your hands and feet activated so you can gain connection. And when you start to lose the position, which you will, because people will start to pass your guard, Focus on frames, right? Frame away so that you can push away and reset, or get up to your butt and reset the position, okay? Never being flat. So just some ideas with frames and wedges that I think are just absolutely critical to the jiu-jitsu game in general.